everyone. Welcome to Inside the Birds Postgame Live. Geoff Mosher and Adam Caplan, of course, joined by Eagles Hall of Fame offensive tackle Trey Thomas. We want to wish everybody a happy new year, but we also understand it's not a happy new year. Not for a lot of Eagles fans who we've been saying for 2 straight weeks, all you need to do is win. Your magic number is 1. Well, guess what, fellas? Going into the final week of the season, the magic number for the Eagles is still 1, as they failed to get their clinch for the second time in 2 weeks. They lose 20-10 at home to the New Orleans Saints. A lot that went wrong. We're going to cover it all. As you guys know, I like to start off with big picture and an aerial look at this. And this was not a great game. I will say, though, I think Jalen Hurts' MVP candidacy might have gone up after this game. Trey, I mean, like, they can't even convert a 4th and 1. They can't.
I mean, I just want to know, is the Minshew mania still a thing?
Yeah.
Is that still a thing? Is everybody still out there in the Top Gun jacket with the handlebar mustache, running around with a samurai sword? Are we still there? Because, I mean, this is a game that you had to go in there and win this game. And, I mean, for you to go through a game and not have a first down until, 30 seconds left in the second quarter?
Yeah.
Just 3 and out. And I mean, taking sacks, you start the series off where you don't slide the line to the blitzer. You want the running back to cross the quarterback's face to take the blitzer and the linebacker. That's a sack. And then in the very next play, he runs out of bounds on the sideline behind the line of scrimmage, which is a sack.
Yeah, that was a bad start. Adam, I had asked you in the pregame show, and look, some injuries, no doubt, have taken a toll on this team. They do for every team. Some of these players will come back, especially when the playoffs begin, and that'll be different. Obviously, Jalen Hurts could be back next week, but I asked you if you have felt over the last week or two, because of some of these injuries, some that are long-term, if you think the Eagles sort of come back to the pack a little bit, and if you're concerned after this game, this loss, even knowing some of these guys are coming back, are you a little bit more concerned about this team's pathway to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, because look, now we'll have to see what the tape looks like. Josiah Scott had some plays today, did a good job. Sometimes he gave a couple plays. They were lost because their offense couldn't move the football. Their defense, actually, think about it, folks, they shut the Saints down the second half. They didn't give up a point. They gave up 7 points on a pick 6 from the quarterback. Defense did its job. For all the hand-wringing and all the people screaming at Gardner when he fired at halftime.
Oh, there was a lot of it. Yeah.
It was just because they're fans that don't know the game very well. They scream, they loud, they throw crap at the table. They want to hate. They just want to hate, and they're waiting for the moment for him to fail. I get it. We get you, hear you. Sometimes you guys are actually right. When we had a real hard criticism of Gannon's call in the 3rd and 30, it was just a bad call. He did a fine job. It's kind of like they got off to a terrible start. Everything that the Saints threw at him with Taysom Hill and Andy Dalton got off to a hot start, everything worked. And then it didn't. And the Eagles their defense shut them down. They adjusted, which good defensive coordinators do. Again, the reason why they lost, offense only scored 10 points. I know they got job on the Gainwell touchdown. That was a great call, by the way. I mean, I got to give them credit on 3rd down to run it there. That was a phenomenal call and great execution. Great. You got what you thought you were get in the front, and they hit it. And an absolutely nonsensical call because Moose Johnson made the right call. If we all got to see the replay, it absolutely is not a penalty because the ref never really fully saw it, and he saw one part of it. Yep. And this is what happens sometimes. It's a shame. And Dickerson's like, what did I do wrong?
Yeah. But, no doubt about it. That was.
I want to talk to Trey about the offensive line and Driscoll starting over. We talked about this in the pregame that we had heard that we thought it was going to be Driscoll, probably going to happen. Would be surprised if it wasn't. It was him. We don't have access to the tape, but Trey, what were your thoughts coming into the game? Did you like that move putting Driscoll there or putting Mailata, which could have been the other point, putting Mailata at right and Dillard at left?
Yeah, no, I would have much rather went the direction that they did. Go ahead and put Jack Driscoll over there at right tackle, leave Jordan where he is. But I mean, Jordan didn't play as just saying either at left tackle. I mean, he got beat with a delayed spin move because he's overreacting to the speed up the edge. And I mean, at this point in the season, because you can't have them practice as hard as they need to. This is when your technique starts to kind of waver a little bit, just because you can't have them go as hard as they need to in practice so that you can have the muscle memory to react in a game. And I mean, Jack Driscoll, at times, he has a very bad habit of punching with his outside hand first, and that can cause some big issues, and I thought that they kept sending help to him with either the running backs, or they had some of the tight ends come over in motion to help him with some of the rushes. But still, I mean, it was just a lot of just breakdowns just across the board.
Trey, just as someone who's played and who's been on some really good teams and has played in the Super Bowl, I'll ask you the same thing that I asked Adam. Even though Jalen Hurts should be back and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson will be back at some point, and we'll get into some of the other guys' injuries later, this will be a different looking team sooner than later. But are you concerned with how this season is ending? I mean, at one point we were talking undefeated and juggernaut and Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Do you have any kind of concerns now about their pathway to the Super Bowl based on what you've seen the last 2 weeks?
Yeah, my question right now is what would you do if Lane Johnson doesn't come back? If he's trying to fight back through this with this abdominal tear, and if he can't play up to par, do you feel like a 60% Lane Johnson is better than 100% Driscoll? Do you need to try to figure it out? I don't know what you can do with Dillard. I would not move Jordan to right tackle just because he's been a lot more in the left, and it's not as easy as everybody thinks to just bounce back and forth from side to side. But with Jalen Hurts out there, I think the reads are a lot quicker. Mm-hmm. The ball will be out a little bit quicker. I think he's a lot more accurate with the ball, and he'll make decisions a lot quicker. I think Minshew being on this stage, to me, when they started playing the camera, and you can see in his eyes, I saw no fire there.
That's interesting, because he's usually kind of that kind of spark plug player, but maybe his reaction to some early struggles today in that game really showed you that it just wasn't going right for him, and he struggled to find the answers. We'll talk about that in a second. I want to break him down. And then obviously you're making a great point on Lane Johnson, and I wanted to ask you, and I'm sure Adam and I have really wanted to talk to you about this. What is your familiarity with being an offensive lineman trying to play through an adductor strain? It's not a sports hernia, but it's sort of close. I mean, he is going to have to have surgery. As we understand it, it could be worse. You could go out there and tear the thing off the bone, which I think McNabb had in 2005, if I'm not mistaken. But what is your understanding of an offensive lineman trying to play through this kind of injury?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, we've all pulled something or had a groin pull or something like that. It is what it is. But the problem, this is the problem. And this is what's going to be a problem with the way he plays. Mm-hmm. He catches a lot. He's not a puncher. And that's one of the things that Coach Stout teaches. They teach you even see it with Jordan Meyer a lot of the time. They set back, they have their hands down, and they allow the defensive ends to climb into their chest, and then they clamp on, and then they hop back. So when you're catching like that all the time, you're putting a lot of strain on your abs, your core, your back. Instead of being a puncher, when you punch, now you're in a little bit better position. You have a little bit more forward lean compared to if you were someone that's sitting back and just catching and allowing the defensive end to run into your chest. That causes a lot more strain on your body. And, I would be very concerned with him coming back with this issue because of just the way he plays, and it's the way it's been taught.
Sure. No, good stuff there. All right, we got a lot to break down. The offense, the defense, the injury to Josh Sweat. We'll get into it all. Yeah, I know. I mean, every time this team plays a game, all of a sudden, the first 8 weeks were great, and then all of a sudden, it just seems like week after week, another starter and impact player has to leave the game early. We'll talk about that. I want to tell everybody about our friends at PHLSportsNation.com. They're enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto. So make sure you're checking them out at PHLSportsNation.com and on Twitter at PHLSportsNation. All right, I want to start off with offense, and I want to see if you guys noticed this too. I felt, and Greg Cosell brought this up from last week, even though Minshew's numbers were good last week, I thought early on in the game, even before he got hit at all, there were a couple of times where he rushed the pass. It's almost like he felt pressure where pressure wasn't there, didn't have the feet set. I remember he tried to skip one over to Goddard at one point. Did it look to you guys, I'll start with you, Adam, that Minshew was not comfortable from the very start of the game?
Yeah, I don't know what it is. he just sometimes moves. It's called perceiving pressure that's not there.
Right.
Now, here's another thing, which I wanted to ask Greg, and I'll certainly could bring it up to you guys. Do you see when you watch him? Sometimes I don't know if he could see over the line. He's what we call a small 6 feet even. He's a smaller bodied guy. And by the way, and here's the difference, one of the many differences between Hurts and Minshew on the 4th and a half a yard. You know what Hurts, because he's so strong lower body, he's getting that. Minshew's not very strong. I know they went for the rugby scrum. That's what they call it, where they crowd everybody in. Nobody does it like the Eagles do with that thing. They usually get it. It's another area where Hurts is not missing that one. And that, quite frankly, I probably after that, if Minshew has to play again, I'm giving it to somebody else. I don't trust him with that body. I don't think he's strong enough.
Trey, what did you see from Minshew early on? We did discuss some of the pressure that got to him, but I thought just from the start, he did not look comfortable and in the rhythm that we've seen him in before.
Well, I thought even in the Dallas game that he was selling some of his balls. He was acting like a backup quarterback that's just had the first chance to start. Because, most of the time, backup quarterbacks, when they're in practice, what they're out there doing, making the defense feel good. You're selling passes. You're throwing interceptions. You're throwing bad passes to make the defense come out there. Hey, they get an interception. They feel good about it. And I felt like even in the Dallas game, some of his balls, he was making the receivers have to make some very tough catches, putting them in harm's way. Even in this game, you just felt like, all right, that he, I don't know. It just seemed like, again, he was selling some passes like he wasn't really as sharp as he needed to be. Yeah, you made a nice throw to A.J. Brown down the sideline. Beautiful throw. You caught Dallas Gardner right there in the middle where you had 4 defenders right in there. And then there were those other times where, it's 4th and 22. You're scrambling and then you throw this pass to Devontae Smith that damn near got his ribs taken out. I mean, listen, if you're not going to be able to lead us, don't hurt us by getting some of our star players injured with some pass that all right, this isn't going to get it anyway. Why would you even throw that to him?
Yeah.
So it was just very frustrating to see his play.
Did I know on the second drive, which also ended in a 3-and-out punt, it was a 3rd and 1, and he tried to keep the ball on his zone read and got nothing. But Moose Johnson made the point later in the game that they were crashing so hard because they don't expect him to run, that there were opportunities for him. And he's not a slow guy. He's not the fastest guy in the world, but he can probably rip off 5 or 6 yards on his zone read every once in a while just to keep the defense honest. Do you think they didn't try that enough because it failed early in the game?
I think it failed early in the game. And I think that, because that was Cam that played him right on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was a defensive end that stopped you on that. Yeah. Your read is the defensive end. So your read is if you see that defensive end crashing, then you hand the ball off. If he plays upfield, why are you keeping the ball?
Yeah, that ball should have been handed off. I thought
it should have been handed off because your read is the defensive end.
And then Adam, what are you doing? Yeah. And then Adam, there were times where the defensive end did crash and he handed the ball off instead of taking the outside lane. It just seemed like, remember how we talked about last year's disjointed offense the first 5 or 6 weeks of the season? It felt disjointed for the most of the game today.
It was. I mean, I'll give them credit. They fought back and made it a 3-point game, but they shot themselves in the foot. I thought like their defense was so bad the first quarter. I was like, what the hell is going on here? They're making it too easy. It was just like last week. And then you saw them as the second quarter progressed, the second half adjustments were made. The easy release that we talked about last week, they weren't giving them as the second quarter progressed so many easy plays.
Right.
I give them credit. The adjustments Gannon and his coaches made they did a great job. And Andy, look, they got the Andy Dalton. They pressured him. Once Sweat went out, it's almost like the guys said to themselves, okay, we got to pick it up here. And Hargrave and Reddick. Cox played with tremendous energy today. He did a very good job. And BG was just in that short area as an edge rusher, the way that they aligned him, he got after it. Give the defense credit. They almost stole the game for them. But the offense, unfortunately, didn't do its job.
Yeah. Now you go to the third quarter, right? Saying the offense didn't do a job. Now they get a touchdown by Gainwell. Yeah. It gets negated by an unfortunate holding that was not a hold on Landon Dickerson. Now I have to be fair and point out that when the Eagles played the Packers, this exact thing happened to the Packers when Elkton Jenkins drove Javon Hargrave so awesomely into the ground that the refs called it a hold on him just because he was too good at his job. And that negated an Aaron Jones touchdown. However, through 2 plays later, they still got the ball in the end zone. Aaron Jones caught the touchdown pass from Rodgers. In this case, you had that penalty take out the touchdown there, and then the Eagles had to settle for a field goal because on a 3rd and 14, Demario Davis did a nice job of batting down a Gardner Minshew pass. So the Eagles, yes, the holding was bad. It put him in a bad spot, but it's not like the Eagles couldn't have gotten a first down. It just, the Saints did a great job there and they got the field goal. But then I got to ask this. Go ahead, Trey.
We have so many penalties.
That's where I was leading into. The next drive, the Eagles are moving the ball, and you get how many penalties in a row? You get 69 with a false start, 62 Kelsey with an offsides, and then Sayamalu with a false start later in the drive. Trey, this is the second time at home that the Eagles have committed so many jumpy false start. I mean, I don't understand how at home you get these false starts.
To me, I think Kelsey's not snapping the ball.
That's right. You brought that up last time too. Yeah.
I think Kelsey's not snapping the ball on time. It's either sometimes because he's snapping it before the hut or which he's supposed to. In a perfect world, is blue 88 set. I want you snapping the ball on set. Everybody moves on set. But if we're hearing hut, when you can see everybody on the offensive line move and the ball is still there, Kelsey didn't snap the ball.
Right.
Everybody didn't jump. It's because he didn't snap the ball. And I think that sometimes that happens. And you can tell there are times that they just said, even in this game, you had to go silent count a couple times.
Right.
This is a home game. I was there. I was at the game for the first part of the game because I was doing a couple of appearances over there. So I was listening to the broadcast on the way home. And I mean, the stadium was numb. And you're going silent count? So to me, I think that there are times that Kelsey just does not snap the ball when he's supposed to. That causes problems.
Because we've talked about this a bunch, Adam. And again, when you start to look at the playoffs and you're facing better teams, that to me is a little bit maybe of a concern that we need to start talking about, because the Eagles most likely, as long as things don't continue to careen this way, will get home field advantage throughout the playoff. It's supposed to be an advantage. You're supposed to have your crowd loud. You're not supposed to need to use the silent count. But here we are where the Eagles are, and they're not functioning well off of it.
I mean, the Giants are kind of, I have to double check this. It seems like they're locked into the 6th seed. They won today. So they're 6th. Yeah, because the Tampa is probably going to win the division now. The division winners are 1 through 4.
Mm-hmm.
Dallas, if they lose the division, is going to be 5. The Giants have to be 6. I don't know what. Yeah, because remember, the Giants have a tie, not a loss.
Right.
So even if Detroit wins next week, who already beat the Giants a tie is a half a win, a half a loss. So I'm pretty certain they're going to be the 6th seed.
Yeah.
So they probably won't have anything to play for. Boy, if the Eagles lose this game to the Giants, I'm done. I throw my hands up. I totally missed on this one. I don't know what to say.
Yeah. That will be that would make the Dallas Cowboys really happy, I assume. So
can you imagine? That would be the ultimate humiliation if the Eagles lose at home to the Giants with nothing to play for.
Yeah, especially if the Giants play back up.
Terrible. Because and everybody's like, oh yeah, the Giants is a lock. New Orleans Saints was supposed to be a lock.
Mm-hmm.
We were supposed to run through this team.
Right.
And here we are sitting up there like, oh man, I'm drinking. It's New Year's Day. We're feeling all down. I've been tailgating, hanging out, and here we are. Everybody's, we're gonna win this. Yeah, we got this.
Yeah,
slam dunk. Oh yeah, no, it's not.
I sort of feel for AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. I thought they both played pretty good games. Brown did not see a whole lot of targets early, but Trey, I don't know if you've heard Adam talk about this. It's ingenious, really. He nailed it. He's been talking all year about AJ Brown has this very unique ability at the top of his route to sort of almost cause offensive pass interference with like a subtle hand stab, or if you like freeze frame what he did to Paulson Adebo there at the top of the round on that, he got him turned around with that right hand shove that a referee will almost never see, and that's beautiful. I mean, when you're that good of a technician, you can get away with it, but that's exactly how he kind of shook open there. I mean, the catch would have been a catch. It was that yards after the catch it really turned it into a touchdown, but had a chance to tie Mike Quick's franchise record for single receiving yards. He fell a little bit short. He'll probably get it next week. But these two guys, to your point, Trey, like Minshew just was not able to lock into him. And then Devontae probably made a few catches that put his body in jeopardy there out there.
Absolutely. I mean, and this is what's going to be just as these guys continue to move forward. just how Devontae is going to be able to learn. What he'll be able to learn from AJ. And I like Devontae is already like a top-notch receiver. But I think all of those little nuances that he'll be able to learn from AJ is just going to help his game just go into another level. I mean, you know, because he's already probably one of the best receivers that I've seen out there with just hands. You know, it's just some of the catches that he makes with his body control along the sideline. I mean, he's spectacular. But I think that as he continues to move and works with AJ Brown, I think it's just going to, you know, his game is just going to skyrocket.
And if there's something I think Adam Minshew can learn from Jalen Hurts if he has to play again, and if he has to play again, it's either next week or even in the playoffs in a bigger situation. He's got to trust AJ Brown. Like I think he's got to learn to throw the ball up to AJ down the field the way Jalen Hurts has done many times this year, and trust that AJ will make a play. What was it, the 3rd and 18 where he threw it short instead of just giving somebody a chance to make a play downfield, and if it's picked off, it's a punt. But I think he needs to you can't go as long as he did without targeting Brown in the first half like that.
You talking about Minshew?
Yeah, what Minshew can learn from Jalen Hurts is to, even if he doesn't look open, throw it to him.
It's not good. In fact, the thing that you may not even know this, the Eagles, it seemed like in the first half, but overall, the Eagles got ball controlled like crazy. They only had it 22 minutes.
Didn't they only have 6 plays or something in the first half?
It's just ridiculous. They were so bad offensively. Like, okay, I get the hate for the defense in the first quarter. Justified. They took over. The defense took over. If the Eagles would have won this game, you would have said, oh, the Eagles offense came back. No, folks, the defense put them in position to win. The defense was phenomenal. They took over. Andy Dalton, awful pick. He got flushed in the pocket. The Eagles crushed the interior of their line. Josh Andrews, by the way, did you see him? He started today at left guard.
Yep.
A former Eagle. The Eagles defense took over. I give him credit. They got off to a bad start. Gannon did a good job in his assistance of getting these guys to do their job better. Mm-hmm. And they stopped giving up those easy passes, which drove me wild last week. I literally screamed, what the hell are they doing against Dallas? But they adjusted.
All right, good segue. We're going to talk about the defense right now.
Hold on, real quick. So we have to play New York. Are we going to see Ian Book?
Well,
no, because the Eagles need to win the game, right? They got to.
Yeah.
Are you saying if Jalen Hurts isn't ready, are they going to go to Ian Book? Oh, okay.
No. Okay, right. Minshew wasn't very good, but no, they wouldn't do that. But
they won't do that. He's not that bad.
No, it's funny because Jeff and I were talking when we were driving over to Rivers Casino today. Okay, what's the rotation going to be for next week when the Eagles the game doesn't have anything on the line? Will it be, let's see, Minshew for a quarter,
right? Ian
maybe Hurts for a quarter and Book for the second half. Oops.
Yeah. All right, let's segue over to the defense. First, we're going to take a break to hear from our friends at Rivers Casino and Sportsbook.
Game night for me is every night. At the place where I meet up with the guys, grab a cold one, and watch the big game on the big screen. So whether it's the money line, the pass line, or a parlay, I'm in it to win. This is my city, and this is my place.
All right, as always, big thanks to our friends at Rivers Casino and Sportsbook on Delaware Ave in Philadelphia, host of Inside the Birds pregame live. Now, Greg Cosell said something interesting on Inside the Birds pregame live, and it's starting to put a theory in my head. So last week against the Cowboys, Jonathan Gannon played a ton of zone, got carved apart, switched to man, mostly man in the second half against the Cowboys, and they fared a lot better, at least stopping CeeDee Lamb from just, eating them up. Most of those yards came for CeeDee in the first half. This game, now we still have to watch the all 22. It appeared to me that they started off in a lot of zone. We're getting picked apart. And then second half, much tighter coverage, probably more man, definitely more guys up. And I wonder this. I wonder if Gannon, if you guys remember last year, the Bengals went to the Super Bowl because Lou Anarumo, their defensive coordinator, was playing one defense in the first half and then an entirely different defense in the second half. And he was confusing quarterbacks because of it. They beat Kansas City, had a terrible second half. Kansas City did in the AFC Championship game. And I'm wondering if this is like part of a bigger plan, because I can't for the life of me understand why you would even come out playing that soft and allow even 15 that first drive. Now I get it. He did adjust, and I'm not whining I'm not griping like some of the fans want him fired, but after last week, you would have thought maybe let's come into the game and force the issue. Trey, is there maybe something deeper going on here with Jonathan Gannon?
Yeah, I don't. To me, why would you play any other way? You know, you have the secondary that can do it. You have your front four or five are the best in the league right now. Why would you even entertain any other way? You know, because and then another thing, I think that just seeing Josh Sweat go down, that took a lot of air out of the stadium. You know, to see him go down, because I was there when he went down, and I mean he was on the ground for a while, and he did
7 minutes, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, just as a player, there were always two things that I worried about as a player. If there was something that happened, like a big injury, or if there was like a tragic accident or something on the way there, because you never know how players are going to respond. They either play out of their minds, play like their hair is on fire, or they kind of play with a little lack of energy. And I think that when Josh Sweat went down, that took a lot of energy out of this group, even though New Orleans was having their way driving down the field on them. But just seeing one of your guys go down that way, I think that really affected this team. But, but back to your point, why would you even play any other way when you have the secondary that you have? Why not just go ahead and press, get up in their face, and then go let your defensive line eat? Because right now, you have a chance to take over the single-season sack record that was laid by the 85 Bears with 72 sacks. I mean, this team is right now, at 68? They might be able to 67, 68 sacks right now. You might be able to take that over next week.
Yeah, I mean, Adam, do you think John just needs to see his defense burn before he feels forced to make an adjustment? I agree with Trey. Like, if you have results doing something in a certain way, and you know that the week before it didn't work, I guess I just don't get why you wouldn't kind of play your best style of defense right from the start.
I mean, they shut him down from the middle of the second quarter on. I mean, the defense just that you know how you were saying in our pregame show, the marriage between the pass rush and the secondary did not hit home. I thought you nailed that last week. That absolutely was the problem. They just, those 6 sacks last week seemed inconsequential.
Right.
This week they did not. They weren't just those sacks. The other pressures they got, and also we talked in the first quarter, they got killed in the flat. And then of course, as we said was going to happen, we didn't know when it would happen. We knew Rashid Shaheed would go get them, and the problem with that play was that it didn't seem like it. We'll find out.
Right,
but it did not seem like that Bradbury had any help over the top.
It did seem like that. I'll have to take a look at the all-22 and see what happened there.
We just didn't seem like he had a safety there.
Yeah, back to the pass rush though. At 34 years old, with 2 sacks today, coming off an Achilles surgery, Brandon Graham has now set a career high with 11 sacks. That's pretty incredible. This guy, Trey, I know you're a wine connoisseur. I'm going to make the perfect analogy right here. The man ages like fine wine, does he not?
Yes, he is. I mean, he is playing really well, you know, and it's not like he's giving you a lot of moves. It's just bull rush.
That's the incredible thing. He's just Mr. Bull Rush all the time. Yeah.
He's just coming bull rush, long arm bull rush. And I mean, because offensive tackles are sitting out there and you're allowing defensive ends to climb into your chest. All right, well, then that's a prime example of it right there. That's right there. When you allow a defensive end to climb into your chest, all you can do is hop and give up ground. And then if you make that quarterback step up just a little bit, boom, there you go, sack. But BG right now is playing – with 11 sacks, and that's the first time that he's had double-digit sacks. It's just amazing.
It is. First time in his career, double-digit sacks. And he didn't even go for 10. He went 11 with 1 game left. I mean, this guy, by the way, Pro Bowl alternate. I mean, you could probably have made an argument that he's a Pro Bowler at this age. And Jeff, he does have a year left, right, Adam?
No, he doesn't.
That's right. Everything runs out. Okay.
No, one of the things I love the way that they use him, because I hate to call him a part-time player, but he's not. He doesn't have to play the huge amount of snaps, and it clearly works for him.
Right.
The D-line gets after it. It's pretty remarkable. Last week it didn't happen against Dallas, and they all learned from that. That was their worst game of the year by far. I give them credit after a horrendous first quarter where I'm throwing my hands up. I was going to text you and say, okay, this is really not happening. Are they gonna just a carrier from last week? It sure as hell looked like it.
Yeah. It looked like a carryover from last week combined with the Washington loss, the way that New Orleans was not running the ball explosively because they were only averaging, even after that first drive, like 3.5 per carry, but they were just devoted to running, and they were setting up short runs by running on first and second down and then adding Taysom Hill into there. And it felt like that we were headed in that direction. And if I were to show you I made a point that the third down stop that Milton Williams got right before halftime, if you remember that settled, I said if the Eagles were to come back and win this game, then that was going to wind up being a key play right there because they could not fall down 17-0. Now, turns out they didn't win, but the response, if you just read all the responses about how they're never going to win because Gannon this and Gannon that and Gannon, and it's like, whoa, what happened to all the great offensive play calling and sequencing? We said that you guys you guys seeing that? Because that's not happening in this game. The defense came to play. I mean, the defense after that, it rebounded. It did what it had to do.
4-quarter game, folks. I get it. It's a 4-quarter game.
How many times has this defense given up? What, over 30 points for it? It's only been, twice?
The Packers got him for 33, right? And then the Cowboys last week for 40. You'll have to I don't think anybody else got him for over 30. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, I know a lot of people give Gannon a lot of, but I think that this defense is ranked, it's top of the league.
Yeah, it's a top 5 defense. Yeah, absolutely.
They're actually coming into this game, they're number one in
number one, right?
In terms of yardage given up, pass defense.
Right.
Number one. The line, by the way, the Lions did score 35 in the week.
Lions, that's correct.
Lions, okay, yeah.
So 3 teams did. Yeah. No, interesting stuff. I mean, Gannon is Gannon is sort of the low hanging fruit for people who just get mad. I mean, listen to this. Even when they're playing well on defense, his style does not appeal to what this city has always liked. The Jim Johnsons, the Buddies, they struggle with the soft coverage of it.
They want exactly.
I
think some of it's fair because you and I last year, Jeff, on our show, we didn't hold back. I think we don't know the guy. I've never met the guy. Whatever. I don't know the guy. We're just our job is to tell the truth. We went after him pretty hard this year because it was all factual. Right. He played to the limitations of his defense, and I gave that note last year. A veteran quarterback told the front office that it was pitch and catch against that defense. Right. So you never see anything like it was so easy. The game last week, Dak Prescott had Dallas fans were wondering if Dak had lost it. No, he hasn't lost it. He played pretty well. Right. He had some struggles. Well, Gannon's defense last week helped it. This week, they got themselves together after a bad start. You're not going to be perfect every week. You want to get the guy fired? Okay, fine. Right. But no, you don't quite understand the culture.
And I think you can still be critical even within this game and be fair about it. You could say, look,
that's
they
what we
were
were
14 of 14 at one point, right?
That's
not just one drive. You can't have Andy Dalton and Taysom Hill be 14 and 14 against you on any day ever. You just can't have that, right? Because if those guys could go 14 and 14, what's Josh Allen or what's Pat Mahomes going to do if you're playing that defense against them in the Super Bowl, right? So I totally or Burrow, yeah, it's fair. It's absolutely fair. We were sort of laughing about how nobody anticipated that Gardner might actually make an adjustment, but he did. They just wanted to bury him for dead after the first.
They want to fight, because they just. And I get it. Sometimes fans go quarter to quarter. I get that, But look, but again, the offense. One more thing, though, and this is probably for all of us. Sanders was better today, but they're not having those huge explosive games. I get they only had the ball for 22 minutes. Well, part of it is when they were running the first half, it wasn't working.
Mm-hmm. It's not really been an explosive running game all year long. And that includes Jalen Hurts. He's ran the ball well, but even his average per run this year was down from last year. And of course, Miles Sanders, I think, has traded the 70 and 80-yard run for the patience and the tough running that we've seen this year. But it is strange that you just haven't seen like that 170 or 80-yard run just get popped.
Well, I think it's because of the zone read concepts, the passes that you have off it. Because offensive linemen, you can't come off the ball and get onto the second level because you gotta have to kind of be a little bit more patient with your blocking.
Good point.
See what I'm saying? Because now if that pass comes out, then now you got a legal man down the field. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we've seen a couple of those.
So I think that plays into it as well because of that zone read concept. Guys just can't come off the ball and get to the linebackers.
All right, excellent point. All right, we're going to take our last break to hear from our friends at Sky Motor Cars and then get into some injuries and a look ahead.
in Westchester is a different sort of dealership. All it takes is one look at their Highline pre-owned vehicles that people all over the country want and need. Owner Brett Schulter makes sure you don't spend a dime of your money before you purchase the car. Sky Motor Cars allows you to make all the decisions regarding your next vehicle. At Sky Motor Cars, you never have to spend more than necessary. Visit SkyMotorCars.com today or call 610-918-7225.
All right, big thanks as always to our friends at Sky Motor Cars. If you go out and see them in Westchester, PA, make sure you tell them Adam and Jeff sent you. You will get a great deal. I want to revisit this really quickly. This Josh Sweat injury, we don't know. We just know that he was taken to a hospital. It was said to be a neck injury. But I'm not going to speculate on injury, but I will speculate and say if he is out for any significant amount of time, including playoff games, that's another crushing loss. I mean, Lane Johnson, that's a tough loss to begin with. Your best offensive lineman, but then maybe also losing your best defensive lineman. So prayers up for Josh Sweat in general, just that he's okay. But Trey, I mean, you've seen the impact Josh Sweat has on a game. If he's even out one playoff game, the Eagles are going to be, I mean, I know we just talked about Brandon Graham. They have good pass rushers, but losing him could be significant if that were to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I think losing Josh Sweat just because of what he brings to the table, you know, a long defensive end that can get out there and give you the edge rush that you're looking for. Because, you know, BG is more of a power rusher guy. He's going to bull and then work back inside. But Josh Sweat is going to be the guy that you're going to work upfield that makes the quarterback step up. And, you know, missing him would be a heavy blow to this team. I'm just hoping that everything goes all right. Because when you see a player go down the way he did, and for him to lay on the field as long as he did with no movement, you know, it really just, you know, brings it home. Like, man, you know, this is a violent game that we play. Just pray that he's okay.
I feel for this guy because remember, he missed the playoff game last year because he had that strange internal bleeding issue, as he described it, where he had to go to the hospital and obviously, you know, wasn't able to play in the playoff game. So you hope everything's okay. And Adam, he's a forgotten man right now, and rightfully so. But I believe this week would be the week that Robert Quinn would be eligible to come off IR and be activated into the practice window. Look, he did nothing. I'm not trying to say there's any expectations here, but maybe the 4 weeks gave him, you know, maybe he's feeling fresh, maybe he's feeling good. Who knows, you know? We'll
look into it, but the Sweat one is massive because not only is he a terrific pass rusher, he's also a good run defender, which is important. The force player, he just the tape shows it. He's been an incredible story of development. Got his extension last year. He's had a breakout season. It's a shame. Yeah, it's tough. They've got some real serious injury concerns. We had the question that was asked, phenomenal question. I forget it from one of our Patreon people about, are there any particular injuries that could derail them from winning the Super Bowl? You know, if you look at them all, and now you add Sweat to it, we don't know his return. We don't know. So it's a problem right now. They've got some significant injury issues all of a sudden over the last couple of weeks. And now they have a game where they have to play. They're not getting the rest that we thought they'd be getting.
No, it's really, who would have I mean, I would have not thought this 2 weeks ago that this was going to happen.
No.
Maybe though, as we talk about injuries, perhaps, and I know you had a note on it in the pregame show, I'd like you to repeat it. Perhaps Chauncey Gardner-Johnson will be able to work a little bit this week and come off, not come off, but come into the 21-day practice window. He was not able to do it this past week, even though he was eligible to. So we'll see going forward if he can.
Yeah, either this coming week or the week after. I know he's doing well, and the hope is that he'll start working back. But I can't imagine if he starts working this week, he'd play. He's been out so long.
Right.
Conditioning you're concerned with. I mean, again, he hasn't practiced, but what they'll do is once he starts practicing, they'll get him. It's one thing, because I know he's running and all that, but it's one thing to get into practice. Trey knows this as a player. One thing to be running, but then it's another thing to practice conditioning and then deciding whether he should be cleared to play. But we'll see what happens with him. But man, I'm stunned that this is next week. Our pregame. I mean, I don't even know how to feel about it. We don't know when the game is. If they haven't even announced when the heck the game is yet.
Hey, maybe if he's eligible to practice, Adam, he'll look at his former teammate Marshawn Lattimore and say, "Hey, if that guy could do that after missing 10 weeks with a hamstring, get me on the field. I'll be ready to go."
We had a great discussion. We had a great on that. Just want to say we had a great discussion in the pregame with the three of us, me, you, and Greg, about what they should do with Gardner-Johnson in terms of should be the slot corner. Or should he go back to free safety where he was tremendous? It's something they're going to have to decide rather quickly once he decide. Because wherever he starts practicing, once he practices, that's where he's got to line up. So see what happens.
What would you do, Trey, if he's able to play and healthy and can go? Do you put Chauncey Gardner-Johnson at the slot where he was with New Orleans, or at safety where he flourished this year and was leading the league in interceptions before getting
put him where he flourished. I mean, I put him where he flourished because that's where he's comfortable, especially coming off injury. I want him to feel extremely comfortable coming off an injury, so that he can feel like, all right, I can go out here and give me my best game.
Yeah. All right, fellas, great breakdown, great stuff. We'll have more on the injury situation for the team on our Wednesday podcast, along with our film review from this loss that the Eagles just suffered, 20-10. We'll break it all down on Wednesday morning, 6 a.m. That's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds Postgame Live. So for Trey Thomas and Adam Caplan, I'm Geoff Mosher. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day.